The very first thing that I have going on this week is I need to get out to the cows, check on them, and move them to the last section of cover crop that we're grazing. So we planted a really big area of this summer sedan grass, and we've been grazing them in sections all the way through this big pasture. And we have one more section left to graze before we have to move them off of it altogether, and then give this area a chance to regrow, and we'll hopefully be able to graze it all again. The cows have been loving it out here, and they're always so excited to move to a new paddock. This job was pretty simple today. All I had to do was open the gate to call them through to the new section, and then I just moved the mineral along with them as we go. Their water tank is already in place, so that it serves the field they were in and the next field that they're going to. They will be able to graze out on this section for about 3 days, and then later on in the week, we will come out and move them back to our regular pasture ground and off of this cover crop. This cover crop has lasted our cows about 18 days, which is very crucial for our regular pastures this time of year. Things can get hot and dry in July and August, and our cool season grasses have a little bit of a hard time keeping up. So being able to get the cows off of it completely and let it rest for a long period of time. So managing our pastures like this has really been helpful for us through these hot summer months. Another thing that's been keeping me really busy this time of year is handling all the vegetables coming in from the garden. I actually joked the other day that it has become my full-time job just handling all of these crops, but I've been trying to keep it very simple with the goal of not letting anything go to waste. I spent one morning just chopping up a bunch of peppers. We've actually done this a few different times, and then we just put it in freezer bags or vacuum pack them. And hopefully these will be very easy to use this winter in soups and our morning eggs, things like that. So that's how I've been handling the peppers as they're coming in. The next thing we've got a lot of is our sweet corn. We kind of planted this a few different times, but our big round of it has finished. We've been eating it fresh with almost every meal. We love sweet corn this time of year, but I need to do a big batch of it for the freezer. I'm actually really excited to have sweet corn like this in my freezer because this will be a vegetable that I'll actually use quite a bit. Sweet corn and green beans, I'll throw it into soups, pot pies, things like that. And this was actually, once the corn was all shucked and clean and ready to go, a pretty simple process to get it into my freezer. I have been spending most of my nap times all week just trying to handle more vegetables, and it's August, so that means more vegetables are constantly coming in. But again, I'm trying to not waste anything, and I'm trying to get an entire freezer full. So the other day I actually went through all of our freezers and moved all of the meat into one big deep freezer and reserved a deep freezer just for vegetables. Currently it's filling up with peppers, frozen tomatoes that I plan to can later, this sweet corn, I have some shredded zucchini in there, and I plan to do a big batch of green beans later on, as well as pickling. I've been pickling so many refrigerator pickles, but I want to try to can some pickles this week also. Of course, the pigs and the chickens, everybody is staying really happy with all of the vegetable scraps. The pigs love munching on the corn husk, the cobs, and all the ends that weren't any good. So nothing goes to waste around here. I'm sure anyone with the garden can relate to how the crops coming in can be a bit overwhelming. I'm trying to just figure out simple solutions to include a little bit of preserving in my daily routine this time of year and making sure that I don't get overwhelmed by it, but I'm just getting the job done and learning a lot along the way. I have never actually frozen corn before. A lot of this is a first for me, but I'm really enjoying it, and I'm sure having that full freezer over the winter time is going to be really fun to work out of. I'm also working out of a freezer of meat that's kind of has various cuts in it right now. We restock our personal freezers every fall with a whole hog and a side of beef. So this is sort of when I'm out of a lot of our good cuts. So we're out of pork chops right now. We're out of ribeyes, all the things that I just reach in and grab for quick dinners. We did have a flank steak in there that I needed to use. I honestly have not made a flank steak very often, but I got it thawed and decided to get it in a marinade for the afternoon, and then I was going to also put a lot of vegetables in there with it and just pan fry it and the vegetables for an easy dinner this evening. I'm prepping all this during a nap time because we have some plans to get out to the garden this evening and get a few fall crops in and just work on a few things in the garden. So I know we'll be coming in late, the kids will be dirty, and I'm going to want dinner mostly done. So I thought having everything prepped, vegetables chopped and ready to go would be super handy. I fall back on meals like this quite often this time of year where I can do most of the prep work during the day and then just do the final touches in the evening whenever it's time to eat. When focusing so much on my family's health, I did not want to neglect healthy water. That is why I want to introduce to you guys SimPure. SimPure is a water filter that is so easy to install and use, and it gives me the peace of mind that we are drinking safe water free from any contaminants. There is no installation required. You just plug it in and start using it. An upgraded portable glass water pitcher adds essential minerals back into the water like calcium, magnesium, and potassium. The filtration system is 3.4 to 1 drain ratio, which means it saves a lot of water. 15,000% more water than traditional under the sink systems. The SimPure filter removes 99.99% of 1,000 plus contaminants that could be in your water, including viruses, bacteria, chemicals, heavy metals, and chlorine. With all the effort I put into clean and healthy eating for my family, I wanted to make sure that I followed up with clean water. I tried a couple different options, but found that they were just inconvenient to use. This is why I've been liking the SimPure system. I simply just fill the tank every morning, and because it is so big, we have plenty of drinking water throughout the day. Our well is generally safe for drinking, but this just gives me extra peace of mind knowing that our water is completely free from any contaminant. Not only is the water clean and pure with a great taste, but the remineralization feature adds those essential minerals back into the water. If you would like to use the SimPure water filter system in your home, be sure to check out the link in my description box. Thank you so much to SimPure for sponsoring this week's video. With all the vegetables coming in from the garden, I'm always looking for ways to just add as many in to every meal as I possibly can. We have so many onions and potatoes. Our potato and onion crop did really well this year. I'm just hoping that we can find a way to store them and keep them for a really long time. A cold room is something we really need to consider setting up, but we don't have it this year. So we're hoping we can store the onions and potatoes long enough to get us through the rush of harvest and all the other crops coming in, and then maybe when things slow down I can chop up a bunch of onions for the freezer, cut up and blanch some of the potatoes, and just try to preserve all of that we can. But I hope that we can mostly just store them and use them like that, because it would be a lot simpler if I didn't have to preserve everything coming in. Tonight I want to address my bed of dahlias. When I say I did nothing with these dahlias, I mean I literally just planted them. I never came back and watered them, never came back and trimmed them. I really neglected them and they did not do well. Dahlias need a little bit of attention. I had 1 year where I grew dahlias so pretty in my raised bed. They were my favorite flower. But since then, I have not been able to put the time that they take to grow them. So I decided for this year, I'm just going to go ahead, scrap the idea, pull the dahlias out, and then I ordered some fall colored zinnias. I believe they'll still come up and have plenty of time to flower. So I just wanted to go ahead and get them in the ground this evening, and hopefully I have some pretty flowers this fall to pick from out of this raised bed. Husband is also working in the garden this evening and getting 4 beds of carrots in the ground for a fall harvest. Carrots is one of those crops that stores for a really long time in the refrigerator. I actually still have some from the spring harvest in there. I just put them in plastic bags and kept it completely airtight. I've been checking on them and they're still really firm and in good condition. So I told him I really wanted another round of carrots this fall to hopefully be able to store in the refrigerator over the winter time. I am really trying to learn all about the different crops that are going to make having a year-round supply of vegetables easy and achievable on our homestead. And today I'm spending another nap time in the kitchen canning up this big bowl of cucumbers. I decided to just make some basic dill pickles and then I wanted to can them. We have jars and jars already in our refrigerator of refrigerator pickles, so I decided to can this round. I'm not too worried about the refrigerator pickles going bad though because we eat so many pickles, but I thought it would be neat to have some in my pantry for later on in the winter. I also thought it would be fun to learn a little bit more about this process. I have learned with canning that it's pretty simple, but it does just take a long time with all the boiling and the processing of the jars. So while I'm doing the pickles, I'm also getting some water going so that I can blanch and freeze a big batch of green beans that just came in from the garden as well. So this is not the first year that we grew green beans, but this is the first year that I remember getting a substantial crop off of. We have been able to pick a bunch of green beans pretty much every couple nights now off of one patch that we have in one of our rows. I think the years before we just really neglected our gardens, and green beans is one of those things that has to be picked continually. I also think this is going to become one of my favorite crops because blanching and freezing them was super simple, and I love frozen green beans. There's so many different ways to use them, and I think it's going to be one of those things that's going to be super handy to have in the freezer, hopefully all winter long. So we'll see how many more we get. And now that the green beans are washed, I'm going to get them cut and ready to blanch, but the pickles are ready to go into the canner. I decided to boil all of my jars because they've been sitting in storage for a while, so I wanted to make sure they were nice and clean before I loaded them up with the pickles for canning. This process actually did not go that smooth. One of these jars broke instantly when I put it in the canner, so I actually had to reboil my water, which took such a long time before I could process the jars, and then only 4 out of the 5 remaining jars sealed. So I'm still learning all about this canning thing. I think one of the things I need to be better at is having better jars. All of these were ball jars except for 2 of them, the one that broke and the one that didn't seal. So I'm not sure if that's what made the difference, but I'll definitely be investing in only name brand jars from here on out. But now that I finally got the jars processing, back to the green beans, and I decided to go ahead and chop these up into pretty small pieces. I feel like I'm going to mostly use them in soups and my pot pies. I do, however, think we will have just a lot of frozen green beans as well, so I might do a round of them where I leave them long for whenever we just need to have them for a simple side. I could also see doing more green bean casseroles and just using them in a lot of different ways. So again, I think this is going to be one of those vegetables that's going to become one of my favorites in the freezer. Last week I shared with you guys about the abundance of zucchinis coming in, and I think that's just a given this time of year for everybody's garden. And I got so many great ideas on how to use zucchinis and what to do with them, and that was so helpful. I actually did read through all the comments, kind of made some mental notes, and then started preserving some of those zucchinis. I honestly didn't think I was even going to worry about the zucchinis, but after all those comments, I actually got excited about putting some in my freezer. This gardening thing is certainly a learning thing for us, but it is really fun to just see what all our garden is producing and then bring it all in and turn it into usable food for us, hopefully to store away for a big portion of the winter months. But we're certainly enjoying it right now. Even though it's become a job that I joked about being my full-time job, I am actually really enjoying learning how to preserve it all and filling my little freezer up and now my canning shelves up with all of these vegetables that we grew. And after a long afternoon in the kitchen, it was nice to get outside and get back to doing livestock work. Tonight, as I mentioned earlier, we are bringing our cows in off of the cover crop and bringing them back to our regular pasture ground. But before we could move them, we had to build up a little alleyway so that they would stay out of our milo crop. That's something that we plan to graze this winter, so we need to keep them off of it all season long, so that way it's not disturbed until we're ready to actually start grazing it. Cattle always work in a flow. So the way that we moved them tonight, I wasn't going to be able to make the turn to take them to where we really wanted to take them. So I had them follow me into a pen that we held them in overnight. And then the next morning, my dad came out and helped me get them to the actual pasture we were planning to put them on. As always, I hope you enjoyed this week's video, and I look forward to sharing more with you guys next week. Thank you so much for watching.